All right, people. So here's the deal. Inception, you've watched it, you've argued about it, maybe you've gone online and you've seen some of the conspiracies about it. What I want to do is just add a little bit of fuel to the fire. I want to give you kind of an overview of things that I know to be true, and then I want to plead my case that I can tell you what did happen and show you in pictures. So, without further ado, if you haven't watched Inception, you got no business watching this. So, go on, get go watch Inception and then come back. And then this is for you, but you're not welcome here right now if you didn't watch Inception. Okay, so first of all, you've got the characters. I'm going to be referring to the character names, so make sure you know the different names. We've got Cobb, we've got Ariadne, which I don't know if you know your Greek mythology, but Ariadne is the person who helped Theseus get out of the labyrinth with the Minotaur and all that. So you can see why her name is a little bit on the nose for me, but that's fine. I mean, I don't know a whole lot of Ariadne's, but okay, that's fine. We've got Saito, who is the billionaire who has funded all this. We've got Cobb's wife, Maul. Now, remember, when we're talking about Maul, Maul is dead. So we're talking about Cobb's projection of her or his memory of her. And more on that later. We've got Arthur, who is kind of the slick, dapper guy who is kind of like one of the architects, but the person who's kind of running things for Cobb. Because if Cobb runs things, he's going to bring Maul in there, who's going to go all stabby stab on all the people in the dream. We've got Ames, who is this forger who can just like dream up big guns and like pretend to be a beautiful woman or an old man or Fisher's uncle or whatever. He can just kind of talk a certain way, do some mannerisms so that your brain just fills in that that's who he is. Like if he wasn't doing that, it would probably just be Ames like talking in a different voice or an accent or whatever, and you would just fill in the rest. And then you've got Yusuf, the guy who is able to make these chemical compounds that allow them to go into dream within a dream within a dream with many different people. And then we've got Fisher, who is the son of the Fisher-Morris empire that they need to break up the company, which is probably the least interesting part of the movie. Not Fisher, but I shouldn't say that. There is no uninteresting part of the movie. So that being said, let's talk about a couple of details to make sure we understand things. But also, like, this is where we can debate a couple things as well. Of course, it's just me talking, so I don't know who I'm debating with. But all right, so I made this boring looking chart. So in reality, what we've got is we've got the characters that I just showed you, all of them on an airplane flying from Sydney to Los Angeles. Okay, takes, what is it, 13 hours, 18 hours, 8 hours. Should have done my research. It's been a minute since I've seen the movie, but it takes a determined amount of time. That's how much time they have in reality to do the thing, okay, to pull off the caper, the heist, because I would also argue that this is one of the best heist movies of all time, because it is definitely that. Okay, so what's going on is they go in, they plug into the dream box, they go into the thing, and I don't have to explain how they do that, and then they go into the city where Yusuf is the dreamer, okay? Ariadne built it, taught it to him, and then he is the one who runs everything there. He is dreaming of the city, and everybody else is in his dream. These people right here are in his dream doing stuff and watching the train plow through everything. And what we're doing here is basically the plot in that level is Yusuf drives around, Saito gets shot, they kidnap Fisher, and then they learn what's going on with his brain being militarized. And he drives around, leads them on this chase around the city while he gets shot at, and then he backs the van off of a bridge and falls into the water, where they all don't exactly wake up, but they do wake up enough, and they get the air. And then exactly, I'd have to look back into how they get back into the plane, because landing in the water isn't what wakes them up. There must be something else. It must be the timer. Anyways, so what's going on there is Yusuf stays behind, and they go down into the next one where they say, we're going to tell Fisher that he's in a dream. Arthur is the dreamer there in the fancy hotel or whatever you want to call it, which like rotates while Yusuf in the level above is like falling down the embankment. The dreamers are all flipping, and that's why he's running in one of the most spectacular sequences of the movie. Arthur leads the gunman on a merry chase around the hotel. He can't drop everybody. Like everybody's supposed to be in the hotel room in beds, and he puts plastic explosives below them to blow them up and like drop them, and so they all die and go to the van down by the river. But he can't do that because the van is falling at the time when that happens, which wasn't supposed to be happening. And so he puts them in the elevator and sends it up to the top and then blows them up at the top where they wake up in the van. Other things that are notable there, they get Fisher to buy into the trick. They say, hey, let's find out who's doing this to you, and you're going to lead us into the next dream. And in reality, he's just going to lead them around, but he's not going to be the dreamer. The dreamer is going to be Ames, which is, in case you've lost some of these, Ames is the Tom Hardy character who can kind of do anything or be anybody or whatever. With him are Cobb, Fisher, Saito, and Ariadne running around this snow fortress, rappelling down rocks, being shot at by people, and doing this spectacular action sequence of like guns and all that stuff going on here. Ames is dreaming. He's leading them around. He's throwing grenades at them. When Cobb's projection of Maul learns about the antechamber and whatever, she breaks down and kills Fisher, because this is just like the part where Saito is talking at the beginning and he says, don't think about pink elephants. And you're like, what do you think? I'm thinking about pink elephants. Actually, it was somebody telling him. But you know what I mean? It's like if you've had a dream where you're like, what is the worst thing that could possibly happen? That's what's happening in my dream right now, right? You know how your brain is. It's stupid, and that's how it works. But you can't help it. So Cobb, the worst thing that could possibly happen is like when he's in the dream with Ariadne earlier in the movie. And the worst thing she could do is like grab some jagged glass and like stab her in the stomach. So that's what she does. Okay. The thing we've got to keep in mind is that this is a projection. This is something else. We'll get to that when we get to Limbo. So they run around. Fisher gets killed. Saito also dies from his injuries there. And what has to happen is they think they're done, but really Ariadne is like, no, we can go one more level. We can go down into Limbo, because if you die here, you go to Limbo. So we can go to Limbo. We can get Fisher. And then Cobb is like, Saito's probably going to die by the time we get down there. So, or he is dead. So we need to find him. So what they do, they go down there. Cobb has to negotiate with himself, arguably. And basically they take Fisher and Ariadne, jump off the top of the building. They die. They come back to the fortress. Fisher goes in, opens up the antechamber, sees his dad, sees the stuff that he wants to see, which is the pinwheel that he made in the picture. And he's like, Dad always loved me, which is bull, because that is not who his dad was. It's just what he wants to believe. And I guess, like they said, the therapy they're giving him about believing what he wants to believe about his dad, you know, who am I to say that it wouldn't be nicer to choose a happier memory of a parent or somebody who you loved who didn't reciprocate that love? You know, I've got plenty of disappointments. I'd love to forget them in some ways and have myself fooled into believing that I'm better at things than I am and whatever and that kind of thing, and everybody thinks highly of me. Then again, that also is fuel sometimes. So like getting into some psychoanalysis of me and you and everybody around us here. Anyways, so they blow up the fortress. They go to the hotel where they die in the elevator. In the elevator, they go to the van where they drop into the water, and then the timer goes off and they wake up in the airplane. Meanwhile, Cobb stays in Limbo, and he does things in Limbo that you need to remember is that Limbo is populated by whoever has been there, which is Cobb, who was there for 50 years with his wife when they were experimenting, and leads to the problem of she believes this. She takes the thing that she believed to be true, which is that where reality is, she put it in a lockbox and didn't want anything to do with it. And the way that she knew it was through these totems. Okay, she invented the idea of the top that would spin, and if it continued to spin, then she would know that she's in a dream. So she didn't want to know that anymore. She chose the happy dream with her husband instead of anything else. So what Cobb does is he breaks in, he spins the top so that it doesn't drop, and then she agrees, like, yeah, we need to get out of here. So they quite intensely, they put their heads on the railroad tracks. They get run over by the train. They wake up in their living room, but he's done such a good job of it that she believes she's always in a dream, to the point where she has herself declared sane. She worries about her safety, and then she jumps off the hotel and she actually dies. And Cobb knows he has done this, and so he feels horrible, as anybody would. And this is what fuels her. Like when Arthur is talking about Maul to Ariadne, and he says she was lovely. She probably was. She was probably this lovely person who had this one thing going on. And this is where I think the best part of the movie is going on, where this like nuanced, beautiful idea of how we see ourselves and how we see other people is not accurate. It's flawed. It's what it is. Like you can talk to somebody all you want. You can spend 50 years with them. You'll never know them the way they know themselves. But the truth is also, unless you've really kind of done the work of figuring out who you are, you're really not going to know yourself, one, the way other people see you, which might be more accurate. But also like denial is a powerful thing. You have things that you don't want to accept about yourself that are good or bad. You hold yourself back from doing great things. You hold yourself back from doing terrible things. Meanwhile, those things are still in you. Like the urge to do bad things and good things is still in you. And whether you do them or not is a whole messy thing, because we are pretty messy beings. So Cobb is a mess because the projection of his wife that shows up is all stabby stab and kill people and torture him and torment him and not let him grieve and forgive himself for what he's done, which I understand. Okay, I can't say I understand that because I have not caused the death of anybody. But as a character, we understand that like he can't let himself do that because he just hasn't, and maybe he hasn't gone through therapy, and he can't because he's been on the run. So Ariadne points out to him like, you need to deal with this, and he finally realizes that he does. So he has this moment, and there's this really great scene where he is talking to the imaginary version of his wife, and he's holding her after he's shot her, and he's saying like, you're the best I could do. I couldn't remember you with all your perfections and imperfections and whatever. I know you're not this like murderous whatever type of thing. You are created by me, and I know I can't talk to you anymore because you don't exist, and I need to let you go. And I think that's probably the best part of the movie. In a movie of really great parts, that's such a powerful, simplistic, wonderful, strong idea that they come up with. And I hopefully you didn't miss it. But so anyways, he makes peace with what he has done. He lets his wife go. And in doing that, he's able to go find Saito and to get back. And then he does. And then he goes into his house and he sees his children and he gets through immigration and he's not arrested. And yay, that's the end of the movie, right? Or not. Maybe not. I just want to throw some gasoline on this here. Like maybe there is the possibility that the whole movie is Cobb dreaming something and he is in prison somewhere dreaming this. And like there's that part where Maul is talking to him and she's saying like, do you listen to yourself? Multinational corporations chasing you, shooting at you, trying to kill you. You just happen to have all these like really helpful friends. Like you just happen to have this young protege named Ariadne who can come in and like do your job for you better than you could. And there's a billionaire philanthropist, whatever, who wants to like fund all these things, who can make one phone call and get you off a murder rap. And then you have the Arthur, who is like your ego or whatever, who's like what you picture yourself as this slick, competent, very safe type of operator. Meanwhile, you've got your id, which is Ames, who's like your, you can be anybody, you can do anything, you're slick, you're James Bond incarnate, basically. And then you've got Yusuf, who just helpfully makes you this chemical compound, who then like allows you to do all the things that you know you can't do because you've been extracting dreams for all this time. And then Fisher, who is somebody you pulled from the news that is a billionaire child, whatever. Like, really, these things are happening? You really think this is what's going on? Because it's not. You're really in prison for my murder, and that's what's going on. I don't actually believe that. And I'd like to prove to you that he's not in prison getting back. So here is the proof that I can give you. All right. So you've got this thing here, right? What is that? Whose is that? That's a totem. It's Maul's totem. It is not Cobb's totem. And if you've dug a little bit on Reddit or anywhere else, you've probably found this. I enjoyed kind of picking this up through watching it. And actually a student scooped me on this. And since then, I have not been able to see the movie other ways. But the totem is not the only way to prove things. There's a couple of cheater ways you can do that as well. But first, let's start with that. So the totem is the top is Maul's totem, which when Cobb spins it, it does continue to spin if he's in a dream, and it falls if he's not. Okay, that works. But in reality, the thing that is his totem is his wedding ring. And they've taken great pains throughout the movie to show him in places with it and without it. And it is blink and you'll miss it type of thing. When Cobb is in a dream, he has a wedding ring on because Maul exists in the dreams and can be there. In reality, he has no wedding ring because his wife is dead. So if you go back through, here we are in one of the early scenes in the movie where Cobb is talking to Saito about this proposition, casing him, trying to figure out if they can get his money and whatever. He's wearing a wedding ring because Maul is there, and she does show up, and she shoots Arthur and in the knee and stuff. You've got this part right here where he's in the original Dream Within a Dream, where he's really on the train in Kyoto in this love nest place, and then in Saito's party. You can see he's got a wedding ring on because Maul could show up there. In the sequence after that, you can see his left hand pretty cleanly, and he is not wearing a wedding ring there. This is the one where the phone rings, he spins the top, and when it falls over, he doesn't shoot himself in the head, because who does that, right? Like, you have to be pretty far into some dream extraction type of worlds to believe that a top not falling over would be the reason you do or don't shoot yourself. He could just be suicidal as a result of what he has done, and maybe he wants to be done with it all as well. Here we are, him showing Ariadne like about the totems. You can see his left hand here, no ring, because he is in reality. At the end of the movie, you can see his hand again, no ring, because he is in reality. Again, at his house, I know it's blurry, this is not a real high HD scan or anything like that, but again, no ring, because he's in reality, and he does actually get back to his kids. He does not choose a happy reality or a happy dream instead of reality. He actually gets back. The other way you can prove it is through his kids, who he sees throughout the movie, running around corners and whatever. And the thing that I would tell you, the way to imagine this is, you and I have a relationship. I'm your teacher, you're my student. And the way that I see you, I will tell you, like, you'll graduate, you'll move on, and I'll see you social media, in person, whatever, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, or whatever, and I'll recognize you, but I can't tell you, like, in 2020, I could not accurately move forward what you are going to look like. Just like you probably can't anticipate exactly what I'm going to look like 20 years from now. I mean, I know you're like you're going to be bald with a beard. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Who knows what's going to happen? If you looked at me 20 years ago, you'd probably be hard pressed to know what I look like now. So that being said, one of the things I think we can't accurately do is I think we can't accurately picture faces, and especially children as they're growing, because they do grow and change so rapidly. Like, especially having kids, they look like one parent at one age, then they look like another one at a different age, and on from there. So that being said, when Cobb sees his children, he only sees this last vision of them, which is also because he's motivated by guilt. But he sees them, and they are running around. This girl's wearing a little jumper, the boy's wearing kind of a plaid shirt. And then when we see these kids at the end, people are like, well, it's the exact same kids. It's not the exact same kids. If you look closely, she's wearing a t-shirt under this, and when they stand up, which I unhelpfully didn't take a picture of, but when they stand up, they're not the same kids. They've definitely aged a couple of years, and they've grown considerably. This is a little girl right here. This is a young girl on the left. Not the same. And James and Philippa have grown quite a bit. And I do not think that it is accurate for us to imagine people ahead. You can also cheat and just look at the cast and crew, and you can see that the children on the right are played by two people, and the children on the left are played by two other people. So they are not the same people, which is cheating, because, you could probably find a hole in that. But I don't think that's true. So to sum up, Inception is a deep movie about all kinds of different things, and it does it really deftly. and it does it with brilliant cinematography and action and performances and music. Let's not forget the music, which is probably one of the best parts of it. And if you liked it, check out all the other music that Hans Zimmer has done, and check out all the other movies that Christopher Nolan has done, including the Dark Knight trilogy, Interstellar, and Memento, and others that are to come, including the one that's supposed to come out this summer, which I don't know if it's going to or not. It's called Tenet, and it looks like it's going to be a doozy. So I hope that this explained Inception a little bit for you. I'd love to be proven wrong. If somebody has some holes in my thing that I explained here, then please let me know. But otherwise, if you've watched the movie, this should show you some proof of what actually happened.